Fancy front end.
Fancy front end. What's up, Arena Club? We appreciate you being a partner of ours here on Dodgers Territory, as well as the Foul Territory platform. So yeah, this is what we're going to be talking about. We don't talk about Shohei Ohtani enough, so let's absolutely make him our Arena Club spotlight player. This is a dude, right? I mean, this is a guy that is so unbelievably gifted. Entering play, Clint, on Wednesday, the 21st, as we sit here and we record this show, he is 9 for 27 with 3 doubles, 3 home runs, 7 stakes, 6 runs scored in 6 games versus the Diamondbacks this season. How about some fun with numbers, will ya, on Shohei? He's batting .323, .413, .679 with 38 homers, 75 ribbies, and 98 runs scored in 106 regular season games at Chavez Ravine as a member of the Doyers. That's a lot of numbers I just threw out there, but the point is Shohei Ohtani is so awesome. And by the way, he's getting closer to facing hitters. We'll get into that with Mark Pryor coming up, but he's just a dude.
Yeah, and amongst the league leaders in wins above replacement, stolen bases, batting average, a leader in homers and all that. Just so dang good at baseball. And I said as of the time we're filming this, recording this, he's 5th in baseball in wins above replacement. Like you said, he's getting healthier, getting closer to getting him on a mound where he is essentially the WAR cheat code when Shohei is healthy and is on the mound. And we did get a positive update this week from Dave Robertson Company. Yes, he finally has mixed breaking pitches into his routine. He's doing that on flat ground, but he's already thrown off a bullpen mound. So that means we are inching closer to him facing hitters, which means we're inching closer to needing to see how they figure out what a rehab situation looks like, because it's pretty difficult to lose your leadoff hitter and your DH and all that kind of stuff. He can't go run off to Rancho Cucamonga and start some games. But just at this point right now, obviously, Alana, like you said, we're going to talk to Mark about all of the pitching injuries. Like, how much of a boost would adding somebody who's not only an MVP with just a bat, but a legitimate Cy Young Award contender with, I guess, the arm to the pitching pitch? How much?
I mean, it would obviously be massive, Clint, but I will say this. There is a caveat to the massiveness of this. He has to be healthy and he has to be ready. I do not want them to force Shohei Ohtani, not that they would force him, but I do not want them to force Shohei Ohtani to come back sooner than he is ready to, because of the decimation of injuries to the starting staff and even to the bullpen that is obviously being overworked and taxed just because of the lack of starting arms in the Dodgers rotation. If he's healthy, if he's ready, if he's stretched out, if it makes sense, bring it. But please do not rush him back just because we desperately need some starting arms. We can sustain up until he's actually ready. We will be fine. The Dodgers are still in first place. It's May 21st as we sit here today. Just don't force the issue. But yes, of course, if he's ready, I cannot wait to see him. And we will talk to Mark Pryor about what that looks like, where he is in the process. But first, let's check out the slab pack from our new friends at Arena Club. We love to see it. Look at this. I love this.
Do we need a drum roll, it feels like?
Our
first pack rip. What do we got? Arena Club gives us a Shohei Ohtani card. How do you like that? Why is he an angel? We appreciate Arena Club. Listen, the good thing is you can use the buyback program from Arena Club. You can get yourself a card that has Shohei in a Dodgers uniform, which is what we all want to see. But that's pretty dang cool. And Alana, why don't you tell people what our friends at Arena Club are doing for supporters of the show and supporters of the Foul Territory Network?
Right, absolutely. Right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and use code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/foul, code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase. It is cool. Love having them as part of our show.
Yeah. And you know what I'm looking forward to right now is we got somebody waiting to join us. He's pretty important. He has nothing really going on in his life outside of a billion injuries. But what do you say we welcome in our friend Mark Pryor?
Let's do it. Always great to be joined by Dodgers pitching coach. Obviously started with the organization in 2018 and is now the Dodgers pitching coach for the last 6 seasons. Mark Pryor, the USC great, much to the chagrin of Dave Roberts. Mark, good to be with you. So you got nothing going on, right? I mean, nothing on the top of your head, nothing to worry about, nothing to work through. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Recency bias. Last night was great. Yama went out and performed like an ace and stopped an unfortunate losing streak. But I'm doing well in general. But clearly we have our challenges right now in front of us, and we're gonna find a way to do it.
Mark, I assume you guys by this time of season are smart. Don't look at the internet, because when I read the internet, I hear Mark Pryor is actively injuring all these pitchers and the strength and conditioning coaches. Nobody knows what they're doing. It turns out pitchers can break. It's a very volatile career choice, as you know very well. Could you help try to explain to some folks so we could use this in perpetuity? Explain to some folks how sometimes injuries just plainly aren't something you could control.
Clearly I can speak to the injury front as a player. It's a unique an environment. I think clearly in this in our organization, we're feeling the ramifications of the injuries, but it's across the landscape of baseball as a whole. A lot of teams are dealing with injuries, and specifically to pitchers, and it's tough to pinpoint one thing, I don't think it's fair for me to go and say, what is causing injuries, what is not causing injuries. Unfortunately, I don't think it's fair for anybody, because I do think there's so much that goes into, guys getting hurt is so much of just an individual basis, where they've been, what their previous injury history is. Some things are fluke, some things are wear and tear, or being used, tire type thing, injuries. But it's an unfortunate thing that we're having to deal with. And so is every other organization to some capacity. Right now, it's very acute for us. We've lost, a lot of guys that we expected to carry the bulk of the innings for us. That's put a lot of pressure on some other guys. And unfortunately, we've had some guys come up hurt. But I don't know. One thing I can say for certain is there's no active training or anything to try. And it's weird because, over the course of, 20 some plus years now that I've been as a player or been on the minor leagues or the big league side as a coach, things have drastically changed. We've gotten smarter. The technology's gotten better. Our recovery, the trainers and the strength and conditioning are really maximizing every individual's talents. But I don't think we've slowed, the injury front, and that's unfortunate. And, it's unfortunate mostly for players, who have to deal with the injuries. It interrupts careers, it interrupts seasons. Obviously, it can wreak havoc with organizations and their plans. And then, for fans want to see the best players in the world play. And, when they're hurt, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, speaking of the best players in the world, Shohei Ohtani, Mark, looks like he's getting closer to facing hitters. That's good news. Where is he in terms of that process, and what does a ramp up for him look like? Obviously, you can't send him out someplace because he's a DH. What does that look like for you, and how close is he?
He's getting closer. To put a time on it, I think is probably not prudent. It's been a very interesting rehab to, personally from an experience standpoint. As an organization, I think it's been interesting to watch. Normally you're dealing with a guy that's all he does is pitch. And so you kind of know what their workloads are, when they're tired or expect to be tired or sore, and when they shouldn't be. And so you can kind of go off of that, and the track record of previous guys who've had previous, similar injuries. Again, as everything would show, he's unique and he's kind of an outlier situation. There's days where he goes 4 for 4 and he's running around on the base pass, and he comes in the next day and he's feeling, tired and exhausted. So the throwing work volume needs to be cut short or tweaked to kind of manage that. And so it's been an ongoing learning process, I think, for everybody involved. But he is getting closer. His last couple bullpens, he's really ramped up kind of the intensity and all his pitches. And so, I think we're getting close. I think we're getting close to where he can start facing some hitters, whether that's in the next couple weeks or, as we turn into June, at the latter part of June. I don't think that's unreasonable, but honestly, things are always a little bit TBD just because of what he does on the offensive side of the ball. And and what the stress of that takes on his body at times.
You know, one of the guys who has been around this season has actually been able to stay healthy and is a damn good ace for this team. Is a guy who won, well, we're recording this and we're going to post this on Thursday, so I can't say last night's game, but last night's game, Yoshinobu Yamamoto plays the stopper for this team, and my God, he's so good this year. What was something you guys worked on with Yama to kind of get into this point where he's taking these next steps into really becoming, you know, he's an ace of Japan, and now he is a true Cy Young front runner in MLB. What was the big difference you guys worked on this offseason?
Yeah, honestly, I think it goes back to the playoffs. You know, I think last year was such a learning curve for him. As we see, you know, Roki trying to transition as well, as Sho did, you know, back when he was with the Angels. I think that first year is such a transition on so many different levels. But I think what we saw when he came back off of his IL stint in September and then through the playoffs was his understanding of the hitters and what the game is like over here, and then really understanding how his stuff and his strengths play against these guys. He's got above average pitches, you know, split, fastball, his command, you know, he can do a lot of different things, which allows him to attack hitters in a lot of different ways and change the way he attacks hitters so they don't always have the same look. And I think that he started feeling that and having that confidence with themselves. And I think if you go back to that first playoff game against the Padres, I think there was a lot of some previous games that he had in that season last year, the first game in career, obviously, and then, you know, during the season. And then he kind of got roughed up again a little bit in that game, you know, in that first game against the Padres in the DS. But he really, you know, his teammates rallied around him. He really went to work, and it was more about understanding how his stuff plays against hitters and really kind of fine tuning that and looking at, you know, if guys had splits and it faced these hitters, going to see what the swings looked like. And so I think he started really internalizing, which just led to more confidence. And then I think you saw him take off in that game 5 of the DS, you know, and obviously in the CS and the World Series. He got stronger over the offseason. He put a lot of work into knowing that he didn't want to go on the injured list like he did last year. And so I think you're seeing the strength component, and then you're layering on and compounding just the overall confidence of he knows that he is a elite pitcher in this game right now. And I think you're seeing that every time he takes the ball. And I think last night was a prime example. His last couple outings have been, you know, for his standards, haven't been up to, you know, what he had set out at the beginning of the season. But very much, obviously, it's still quality outings. And then he kind of got into it as the game went on. He just got stronger and stronger. And that's what you see from elite guys. They might not have it all lined up in the first couple innings, but as the game gets going and he gets into a rhythm, he just started, you know, locating and commanding. He would make guys miss. He'd make guys get caught in between. It was a really, really phenomenal performance at a time when we really needed length out of him, for one. We needed quality out of him, which he got. And then he really just set the stage for us to have a chance to win a ball game. And that's what you ask out of your aces.
Yeah, the in-game adjustments from Yamamoto seem so much more apparent this season than they did last season. Obviously, another year under his belt. Let's talk a bit about Roki Sasaki, Mark, because this is a guy, of course, everyone heard the name in the offseason, everyone trying to land this 23-year-old. But honestly, he's a kid. How much do you think that shoulder injury was kind of hampering the results, and where is he right now?
Yeah, I mean, you can't say it's nothing. You know, how much of it played a role into kind of his trend down after, you know, his opening couple starts. That's hard to say, but I definitely think this is something that's, you know, clearly he was bothered by it last year at times in Japan, and it's kind of reared its head again a little bit. So, you know, I think you know, you have kind of two different paths going on here. You have a development path, you know, overlaid with him trying to perform at the major league level. And those things aren't easy. We see it a lot of times with, you know, guys coming up from AAA in the minor leagues, and they're trying to continue their development at the big league level. And that's extremely hard, and sometimes it gets messy. But I do think the shoulder thing has something to do with it. Clearly the velocity continued to trend down. You know, and finally he got to the point where he spoke up, and we're glad he did, because I think it's something that we needed to address. his overall, shoulder conditioning and strength. And so that's what they've been really hammering over these last, 10 days is making sure that his shoulder's in a good spot to continue to throw. I think once he's, feels and everybody feels he's in a good spot, then he'll start picking up a baseball, and then we'll go to work as a group, trying to fine tune some of the things that, need to be fine tuned is, his fastball quality, trying to mix in his breaking balls, his command in general, which I think has been a step down from what I think has been in Japan. And so it's a matter of trying to get that back and not making it so easy for hitters or be super predictable to hitters where they can just kind of sit on one pitch. So there's going to be a lot more of the stuff that's in what we would call player development type stuff as we try to ramp him back up to pitch for us in the major league.